This is Anna Bevan-Gravely with NCFREE, and I'm joined by Representative Joe John, running for re-election in House District 40. Representative, how many people add an S to your last name?
That happens quite regularly, including in your evaluation.
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah. So thank you for pointing that out. What do you want to share with our members before we get started?
Well, going back to the S, there's only one of me is what I usually say about that. Well, I'll be going into my third term, assuming I'm reelected, and I feel like I'm really in a good position to make some valuable and constructive contributions to the operations of the General Assembly. I came to the General Assembly certainly now as the only individual to have previously served both in the both in the judicial and executive branches. So now having served in the legislative branch of government, and we think the only person in the history of the General Assembly who has served at the high levels of all three branches of government. I was a state court trial and appellate court judge for over 25 years, and also managed the North Carolina DMV and the State Crime Laboratory after my judicial service. So I've got a reasonably strong background in state government, and so I was not a total stranger to the operation of the General Assembly when I got here. But now, having spent 2 terms, I think I'm really positioned to make a strong contribution in a leadership role as we resume the new session next year.
Awesome. We'll just dive into the questions. So have you ever owned a business or been in a management position within a business?
Yes, I was a partner in a small professional services, a law firm. And then, as I mentioned before, I've been at the top management level of 2 state agencies, the NCDMV and the State Crime Laboratory, which employed approximately 1,600 and 300 persons, respectively. My role in the law partnership involved participating in all ongoing management decisions, including personnel, payroll, distribution to partners, and expenditures, both real property and technology, as well as improvements, furnishings, and supplies. At the state agencies, I was responsible for all ultimate decisions affecting day-to-day operations. During my tenure at the Crime Lab, I did bring in private sector processing systems, Lean Six Sigma, to deal with the large volume of analytical work being submitted to the laboratory by 630 law enforcement agencies from all 100 counties throughout North Carolina. At the lab, I also experienced the frustration of seeing trained personnel, good employees, depart for better paying jobs, both in the public and private sectors, a circumstance over which I, even as head of the state agency, had very little control, since funding for that agency was within the purview of the General Assembly, where I now serve.
Well, thank you. Do you feel that taxation on a state and federal level is too high, too low, or just about right?
I'm not a proponent of raising taxes, and I feel like all North Carolina government spending must undergo a continuing hard look. This is going to be especially true in the upcoming next session, which will feature a substantially reduced state income as a result of the pandemic situation. And difficult choices are going to have to be made among competing interests, with a focus on funding those priorities needed to create and continue a strong economy here in North Carolina. In addition, as an aside, as a parent who has watched a son build a small, successful business from scratch, I do believe we must do more to lower taxes on our state startup companies and small businesses.
Awesome. Do you feel it's appropriate for state or local governments to offer incentives to private businesses in consideration of locating, expanding, or conducting business in a particular part of the state?
the issue of government incentives to private businesses, and that includes tax incentives and cash award incentives, is certainly complex and multifaceted. Ideally, the business climate here in North Carolina would be so attractive that any consideration of incentives would not be required. Yet unsuccessful competition with other states which proffer incentives without restraint might well put our state's economic growth at risk. Mm-hmm. So drawing upon my years of experience in issue resolution as a judge, mediator, arbitrator, I'd like to work with all concerned to develop what I feel is a sound, consistent, and hard-nosed approach to incentives. To me, common sense suggests that incentives preferably should reward construction, employment, and above average wage goals upon their being accomplished, rather than incentives being awarded upfront based upon hopes and expectations.
Mm-hmm. Describe your personal opinion as to what you think the key principles of free enterprise are.
My personal opinion about a strong free enterprise system is that it rewards initiative and hard work, and provides opportunity and access to businesses and individuals. I learned hard work and determination from the example of my parents, the children of immigrants from Hungary and Poland, and I personally have been employed part-time or full since I was 13 years old, and that's a few years ago. I've also been proud to see my three children apply those values as they matured into young adults and embarked upon their own careers. And my goal is to continue to ensure that North Carolina has an open and competitive business environment.
Mm-hmm. And this next question is pretty timely and appropriate for what we're looking at right now, and you have a very unique perspective on this. In your opinion, what is the appropriate balance in the scope of federal and state regulatory requirements on business? And what, in your opinion, is the best way to balance those protections without impugning economic vitality?
Yeah, I would want to receive input from North Carolina's businesses across the board regarding needed improvements in our regulatory environment. In my opinion, we need an ongoing and consistent review process, which would identify bureaucratic barriers which no longer serve a purpose or which needlessly burden economic growth. Government should in all respects be open, transparent, efficient, and fair, including in its regulatory policies.
And so, if elected or re-elected representative, what would be your top three priorities as it pertains to business?
Well, first, a strong educational system from bottom to top, from the beginning years to the community college and university levels, is absolutely critical to promoting and supporting a robust business climate in North Carolina. As the proud father of three children educated in North Carolina schools, and now the grandfather of several children at different stages of that process, I believe in maintaining a high quality, connected educational system in which North Carolina's children will be prepared for the jobs of the future, including those in science and in technology. Secondly, I've been here now 2 terms, and it seems to me that we need to reform our budget process and streamline it so as to eliminate provisions which are not fully vetted in an open and transparent environment, and which fail to focus upon those monetary appropriations truly needed to fund ultimate priorities. And I'm talking in many respects about what's called pork barrel spending. This would result in more budget funds available to support a strong business climate in North Carolina. Moreover, taking months to complete a budget, during which time legislators are being paid on a daily basis, it arguably does not constitute an efficient business process. And finally, complementing a strong educational system in supporting a vital business climate is a fully functioning and efficient court system, which is, of course, where I spent many years, both as a former prosecutor and a state court judge at the trial and appellate court levels. So I know that the needs of our judicial system, based on my experience, particularly in the area of technology, have long been ignored, jeopardizing swift justice in the criminal courts and the prompt resolution of litigation in the civil courts where business disputes are decided. Since the establishment of our consolidated court system in 1967, the judicial branch has been accorded more than 2% of the state budget only once, and on that occasion it was 3%. I believe it's time to make the judicial branch an equal partner with the executive and legislative branches of our state government.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing more about your thoughts and your perspective. It's very valuable. Thank you so much. Before we close out our time, where can our members go to learn more about you?
All right. Well, first, I have an email address. It's joehnnchouse40, JOEJOHNNCHOUSE40 @gmail.com. The website is joehnnchouse.com. Again, JOEJOHNNCHOUSE.com. A good place to look is a Facebook page at JoeJohnNC40 or Twitter @JoeJohnNC40. We also have an Instagram account, as one must these days, at JoeJohnNCHouse40. So,
awesome.
Any of the above.
Yeah, lots of places to find you for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great rest of the day and good luck on the campaign trail.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the opportunity to talk with you.